just kind of kick it off then.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Huffines, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for making it down to the Valley. It's always interesting to talk to people of, why they're going up against people in other parties, but it usually makes a lot of sense. But it's always more interesting to talk about why you're going up against somebody in your own party. So what is Governor Abbott doing wrong that you want to fix?
Well, Chris, I love being here in the Valley. First of all, it's a great area of Texas. Now, I'm a fifth-generation Texan. I'm a businessman. If the job was getting done, I wouldn't have to do it. Texans are smart. They can see this as a failed administration. I mean, my opponent's a career politician, 31 years on the Texas taxpayer payroll. And we're all tired, Republicans, we're all tired of being lied to. We're tired of the lies about the viruses. We're tired of being lied to about the border being closed. The border's more open than it's ever been. Our property taxes just keep going up and up. We don't have any confidence that our votes aren't being stolen. And I can just go all the way down the list. And Texans are tired of that, and I'm going to change it. What we need is new leadership, real leadership, courageous leadership, and that's what I'm going to deliver.
I was looking at your website, and it sounded a lot you feel Governor Abbott isn't being conservative enough. Is that something you believe?
Yes, he's not. He's just a political windsock. He just blows with the wind. He'll come down here and have a news conference and leave. And I'm the actual Republican running, and I'm actually going to do something about the issues that affect Texas. We know the issues, and I've got the courage to implement those solutions. And like on the border, my border message has been resonating for weeks. I've been in the campaign 5 weeks, and tremendous support, tremendous excitement. I'm the one that came out to say we're going to finish Trump's wall, and we're going to build a Texas wall, and it's not going to be over his silly little plan of 20 miles. I'm going to do it for hundreds of miles along the Texas border. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to secure the Texas border, and I'm not asking permission from the federal government to secure Texas's border. This is our border. We fought a war over. It's clearly defined, and we're going to do whatever necessary to secure it. I'm going to mobilize the Texas military. I'm going to enact Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution to take control of this situation, because this is an invasion. It's a premeditated attack on Texas. This is an invasion, and we've got to stop it immediately before the cartels keep making more money out of all this sex trafficking and human trafficking.
And so how do you go around the federal government? We've heard a lot of people talk about that's going to be their strategy. We want to go around the federal government. This is Texas. So how do you specifically go about doing that?
Well, I can tell you we've got a great plan to do that. I'm going to set off the bridges a little bit. Those are state roads. And I'm going to make sure we control the access to state roads and the state and the bridges. There's 25 crossings over the river. We're going to first thing we got to do is get control over those, and then we got to convince Mexico to secure their side of the river. And we can do that. Economic pressure really, really works with Mexico. There's a lot. They make a lot of money bringing their stuff into Texas, and we're going to just convince them they need us more than we need them.
Economic pressure meaning taxes.
It could be a tax, it could be a tariff. It was once we suspend the Constitution, everything's possible. It could be just stopping some commercial traffic periodically until they make sure that they're going to secure their side of the border. The key here is to get them to cooperate.
And the RGV is historically a blue area. So how do you go about convincing a blue area to shift red?
Oh, that's not hard at all. It's really not. The people down here, these are great Texans. These are great patriots. I've been touring all over the Valley area here now for a few days, and I'm going up and down the border seeing what a disaster it is, what an invasion. These got millions of illegals pouring over and flooding our schools, costing us billions of dollars in education, healthcare, incarceration. I just go on and on. We're just costing Texas taxpayers billions. But these are great patriots. These are people that value family and understand the importance of family, that it's the foundation of our education, our health, our belief in our religions. And also, everybody down here is pro-life. I'm pro-life from conception to natural death, and everybody else is down here. These are great patriots, great Texans. And I know they belong in the Republican Party, and we're going to convince them of that.
And this is becoming a pretty crowded field. We're hearing the name Allen West, Sid Miller, yourself, even Matthew McConaughey kind of flirting with the idea at the very least. How do you get your message out in a louder sense than of these other names?
Well, I'm fortunate that we have so many people flocking to our campaign, grassroots people. I've got a lot of donations coming in, and we're going to have the financial resources to compete. That's something that my opponent's never had. He's never had an opponent in the Republican primary at all in 31 years of his career. So now he's running scared. He's worried about his career, his political career. And that's why he's responding. He's responding to our message about the border, our border message. He responded to everything we do. That's why he's back down here. Look, if he wanted the border secure, where was he 6 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? Where was he to help Trump with the wall? He didn't want the border secure, or the border would be secure. He's admitted that the governor of Texas can secure that border, and he hasn't ever done anything about it because he really doesn't want the border secure. And it's the same issue with everything related to the Republican Party in Austin, whether it's term limits or property taxes or confidence in our election. My plan to gradually phase out property taxes over a 10-year period is a very workable plan, and we're going to get everybody in Texas a chance to vote on it. It's going to be a constitutional amendment. We're not going to have an income tax. It's a tremendous plan, a tremendous idea, and I know Texans are tired of renting their homes from the government.
And you mentioned getting rid of the property tax.
Yeah.
Over time. Is there going to be anything to offset that loss of revenue?
Well, it's surprising. If we can cap state spending at a very low number, like 1 or 2%, our state revenues grow at about 8%, and we can take that growth in revenue and buy down the property tax, and it makes a huge difference. We might have to shift a little bit to sales tax, but the most important thing is we can get rid of that property tax and create tremendous wealth for everybody. One thing I'm going to be focused on is making sure that we got equal opportunity for everyone to succeed in Texas. We get the jobs back. You know, my opponent, he destroyed 3 million jobs in one day on this virus issue. That's more jobs than the state of Texas has created in the last 15 years combined. He destroyed tens of thousands of businesses. And we got to get those jobs back. We got to get people working. And we got to make up for that. And it's going to take years to do that.
And you mentioned Governor Abbott lying on the virus, or there being lies in terms of the virus. Where did he specifically go wrong with COVID?
Well, he shredded the Constitution. The Constitution, the state Constitution, and the federal Constitution he swore allegiance to doesn't give him the authority to be a king and just shut everything down like he did. He didn't go to the legislature and get them to cooperate. He just did it all on his own. He didn't care how long you worked in that job. He didn't care how long you owned that business, how many sacrifices were made. Boom, it was all over in one day. And he listened to the know-it-alls, all the know-it-alls in New York City and the swamp in Austin, and told him what to do. And we've been lied to about the origins of the virus. We've been lied to about the cure to the virus. We've been lied to about the mask of the virus. Look, the virus is real. There's no doubt. It was real. But the reaction that we had to just shred our Constitution, he closed our churches. On the holiest week of the year, Easter, you couldn't properly bury the dead. You couldn't get married. You couldn't baptize. You couldn't get baptized. And I can go on and on. But it wasn't how Huffines would have handled it. The Huffines administration, I would have gone to the legislature and tried to work something out with them, and I wouldn't have shredded our Constitution because it doesn't give me the authority to do what he did.
Of course, hindsight being 2020, but what specifically would you have done differently over the course of the pandemic?
I would treat the medical emergency as a medical condition in a medical environment. I would educate Texans about it, and I would have waited. I'm not just going to follow along. I'm a leader. I'm a courageous leader. I would have looked at the situation and evaluated it and not violate my oath. And that's what a business guy does. I just see things differently. I want to solve the issues as I see them. I'm willing to take risk, and I'm willing to acknowledge if I make a mistake or not, learn from it and move on.
And the phrase or the term career politician seems to now have a negative connotation. Maybe before it didn't necessarily take that with it. Do you think there are things you will have to learn, as you say, you're not necessarily a politician, you're more of a businessman? So over the next year, you'll have to learn about being a politician?
Well, that's a good question. I'll tell you this. I did serve in the legislature 4 years. From 14 to 18, I was in the Texas Senate from Dallas County. I was Senate District 16 as a Republican, of course. And I learned then what liars they really are in Austin, particularly the people in my own party. I fought those people really most of the time more than I did the Democrats. And I know what they want. I know let me just say, I know the tools in the toolbox is going to make them cooperate.
And you've mentioned that. You say you know that there's corruption, of course, in Washington. There's corruption in the Texas government. What do you see? What is that corruption?
Well, let me just point to an example. I uncovered the biggest political corruption scandal in modern Texas history. It was in Dallas County, an elected bureaucracy. And it had a $110 million annual budget. It had 3,000 employees. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized how much money they were stealing. They were stealing tens of millions of dollars. I got the Texas Rangers, FBI involved. I got 6 people put in prison, including the sitting mayor pro tem of the city council of Dallas. He's serving 6 years in prison. And that was just what I did, just initially looking at it. I can assure you, there is no one in Austin paying attention to corruption. There's not even bureaucrats looking after the additional bureaucrats. It's no one overseeing anything down there. And I am convinced that there's a lot of corruption, and there is, and a lot of people need to go to jail.
And I want to touch back on this, but
Yeah.
you do mention the border and finishing the wall that was begun. A lot of people in the valley cross over daily.
Yes.
They use that as their source of income. They just travel here for business and then go back home across the border. Is that something you want to bring back immediately? Because a lot of people are clamoring for that at this moment.
I tell you this, I absolutely do. If you've got the proper paperwork, you should be able to come back and forth. If you got the visas, the work, and anything else, if you got the proper paperwork, you need to come back and forth. They should open that back up. COVID's over. That's just an excuse. We need to get our businesses in the valley back running full steam. We need to get the small businesses back up and operating, their restaurants and everything like that. But we need to put economic pressure on Mexico at the same time. And so it's a delicate balance how we're going to do that, but we're going to make it work, and we're going to do whatever we need to do to get the jobs back to the valley and also secure the border.
All right. Great. That's perfect. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming out, and I'll come back.
Yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be back.
Thank you. Where's the next stop?